Hey everyone, I think we're back. The internet just bugged out for a second, but I've just restarted the stream on a new stream. No idea why. The internet's been 100% fine.
So immediately looking at price.
But let me just quickly make sure it is running on YouTube here. All right, I think the stream is back. The internet just popped out for a second there. I don't know why, but which actually somehow ended the stream. It was just kind of like a dip in the internet here, and then it actually ended up ending the whole stream. But I kind of now had to start a whole new stream, but that is just super frustrating. Anyways, I think you guys are back. Just type in chat if the stream is running smooth again. Yeah, the internet bugged out this side. Kind of just went through a bit of a dip, which actually ended up ending the whole stream. So I've just started a whole brand new stream to continue. I'm not going to leave the previous stream just kind of halfway through it. So we'll just continue as per usual here. Sorry about that, guys, but stream should be running smooth now. Okay. So as we were saying in the previous stream before we got interrupted there, the M15 initial entry that we took on the 1 minute AMD model, I'm going to quickly just move the chart back here. Oh, I have to still update that. But we have to, what I initially did was I took this liquidity sweep here, this 1 minute displacement fair value gap, that pullback, which was the initial first entry, which was stopped out. Then again over here, we had that sweep of that low, then on the 1 minute, that 1 minute displacement fair value gap to then continue long from there. So everything was realigned. The 1 minute gave confirmation inside of the M15, which was aligned with the 4 hour with the daily to then eventually continue targeting those overall weak highs. So everything was a confirmation of each other, all phase A pro trend, which exactly was this entry over here. Phase A pro swing and pro internal, which theoretically is always the highest probability to be trading in. Okay. What I'll do is with the previous stream, I'll just rename that to like part 1, and then this one will just be part 2, so they can just be kind of structured to make sense after each other, because now they're going to be on my channel as 2 separate streams. But yeah. Anyways, besides that interruption, does everyone have a good understanding of XAUSD? Potentially what we could see for a bit longer term going into the rest of this year and then also into next year. Specifically today, what I would like to see is we've just had a bit of that M15 pullback. The M15 strong lows remain here. Okay, so if the internal strong lows, M15 break, internal shifted bullish just to cater for a bit of a pullback. So if this internal low goes to the downside, it'll put areas of supply here. I'll be happy to look for a bit of a pullback to then continue short to target those weak lows. Just trading, again, those phase C shorts to ride a bit more of that larger overall 4 hour pullback. So this is a trade plan I'd like to see play out today. We have just had this M15 fractal change of character, but still not enough yet to confirm the end of the pullback, as these demand areas are still in control. So potentially, if you want to look for longs here to target these weak highs, we've now had the mitigation into this higher time frame POI. We need to see this low sweep, because this is our initial reaction, which would be the accumulation, sweep, displacement fair value gap to go long. But ideally, yeah, that would be my trade plan in order to look for longs. Otherwise, shorts, I'd need to see this internal strong low go to the downside. So in the interim, just to target these internal weak highs. So yes, the M15 is bearish, but we've just had that M15 break. We're still in the premium of this entire swing range. If I mark this out from the high to the low, here. So we could definitely see, and we definitely have room for a bit of a larger pullback before then continuing to target those overall weak lows. Okay. Alrighty. Everybody happy with XAU? The breakdown? Any questions on XAUSD? The long positions, the reasoning behind them, the rules behind them, all that came down to was these rules over here. Once all of these gave confirmation, it was the perfect opportunity to enter the swing trade, which is exactly what EU on the 4 hour time frame is starting to print for us. Okay, 4 hour has now aligned bearish with the daily. The daily has realigned bearish with the weekly. So once we get that bit of a 4-hour pullback into the premium of this range and the M15 confirms so, that will be beautiful opportunity to execute those swing longs to target the daily week lows and even potentially the weekly week lows. Okay, so all it is, it's a follow and it's an execution of the rules that we have already laid out, regardless of the outcome of that trade. The fact, again, comes down to this quote: we've executed under a rule set is a win regardless of the outcome. Take note of how I won't look for longs here to force out longs to ride a bit of this pullback. If the M15 gives confirm, I'll react to that trade plan and potentially look for a mechanical 4 or 5 risk to reward just to trade a bit of that pullback before then looking to execute the overall swing trade plan that we have in mind going into the new year. Okay. Ooh. Alrighty. Any questions on EU? Any questions on XAUSD before we move forward? I'm more than happy to have a look at 1 or 2 pairs that you guys potentially want to have a look at. So please do post in chat if you want me to have a look at a specific pair that you're looking at. I'll be happy to break that down for you, giving you just some clearer insight into what you can expect from price long term and short term just going into session today. Alrighty, I think it's back again. We just had the same thing now. It's really frustrating. Just type in chat if the stream's running smoothly again. I don't know why the internet's doing this, but it seems to still be running on YouTube. So we'll just continue with US30 and NAS. It's just Murphy's Law. Every time we stream, something has to go wrong. It can never run smoothly. But anyways, it seems to be running fine now. If it does it again, then I'll just recreate an entire new stream for later this afternoon, and I'll just message the internet guys to sort that out. Okay, just quickly did a test browse there, running smoothly. Alrighty, perfect. So let's go over to US30, and then we can cover NASDAQ as well. So I'm just going to use the Black Bull chart. I actually have my own chart here with our previous markup. Okay. So if we have a look at US30, immediately just coming down to the higher time frames on the monthly, we have Streamlabs giving issues. Are you using an Engis relay to stream? I'm using Streamlabs. So the stream is copied to Facebook and Twitter as well. So I don't know if that could be the problem, but I can see on the internet side on my PC that the internet just keeps dipping. I've actually just messaged the provider now because I can't have this every single time that we hop onto stream, but it's never happened before. And I've got a really strong line here where I am, so it can handle streaming more than fine. And it's just so frustrating because I just want to have a clean 2 to 3 hour stream with you guys with no interruptions. Message the have this every. Okay, but it seems to be back again. So yeah, as I was continuing with US30, we have our weekly strong lows, previous weekly break, pullback. We've now targeted that weekly weak high. Okay, so I'm just quickly going to remove all of these markups here. This then becomes our new weekly break. Weekly strong lows, the lowest point after that pullback, after the previous break of structure that created the new break of structure. The weekly weak high, we'll confirm once the daily starts to shift bearish. So from the weekly, we can hop over to the daily. Our daily structure is really actually similar to the weekly with our daily break, daily strong lows, daily weak highs. So in this scenario, just because this is just one giant leg, our daily structure, well, our daily strong low is the same as our weekly strong low. Okay, so from the daily, we can then hop over to the 4 hour, and our 4 hour structure would be also way over here, that pullback. This is our 4 hour break, 4 hour strong lows, 4 hour weak highs. Okay. That's simply so because we had our previous 4 hour break. The M15 shifted bearish, confirming this is a weak high. We then targeted that weak high, making this the lowest point after the pullback that created the next break of structure. And ever since, the M15 has just been bullish. So as soon as that M15 shifts bearish, we can expect then a bit of a larger 4 hour pullback. And this will then be labeled as our valid rule-based weak high. Okay, so we've had the weekly break, we've had the 4 hour break of structure to the upside, and we've had the daily swing break of structure to the upside. So on all time frames, we are due for a bit of a swing pullback, but we'll confirm that once price prints so. So the M15 still remains bullish, and I would like to stay pro-trend bullish until the M15 shifts bearish to signal the start of a much larger swing pullback. Okay, so what I would have been looking for on potentially US30 going into session this morning, we did have the pullback into the discount of this range. Okay, let me just quickly label this out more formally. M15 break, M15 strong lows, M15 weak highs all the way up here. So the expectation of order flow is to continue targeting those weak highs. Alrighty, so now that the internal time frame is really just shifted over here, internal break of structure to the downside, but then had that internal break to the upside, internal pullback into demand to mitigate this area of demand fractal range, to then follow through and potentially continue targeting these weak highs. So these are the internal weak highs, internal strong lows. We've now had a bit of a fractal pullback. The fractal has now shifted bullish. So what we could potentially see is a pullback into this area of demand here, or over here as well. We do have this recent zone, which we would need to see the liquidity form for that sweep to then potentially continuing along to target those overall internal weak highs and potentially the M15 weak highs. As we've had that M15 pullback, the internal then shifted bullish to confirm the end of this pullback. The fractal is now also continuing bullish, which is realigned with the internal and the swing. So it only makes sense to stay pro-trend long to continue targeting those weak highs. Okay. So that would be my potential trade plan going into session today on US30. Yeah, just to stay on those phase A longs to target the overall swing weak highs and the internal weak highs. Okay. Alrighty, then moving on to NASDAQ on NAS 100. Yeah, that's the same feed I've got. If we come over back to the daily, we've had that daily break of structure to the upside, so we potentially are due for a bit of a daily pullback to then eventually continue following through and target those weak highs. Okay, so from the daily, we can hop over to the 4 hour, which we confirm with our which is our internal on the daily, which we confirm when the start of that pullback is potentially going to happen. Alrighty, so the 4-hour structure was this break of structure to the upside here, 4-hour strong lows, which we've just had a liquidity sweep. We haven't broken structure yet, and this high over here remaining as our 4-hour week high, which is also the current M15 swing strong, which will now actually move to this high here. I'm going to break that down for you just in a bit. Okay, so 4-hour strong lows, 4-hour weak highs over here. M15 has shifted bearish to cater for a 4-hour pullback. Once that 4-hour shifts bearish, which there's good probability to do so, we could just see a much larger daily pullback before then continuing to target those expectational weak highs. So from the 4-hour, we can then hop over to the M15. As of yesterday, we had a failure of the M15 weak low, and we targeted those weak lows with the M15 break to the downside, making this, well, our previous break, pullback, break of structure, highest point after the pullback that created the next break of structure, then becomes our M15 strong high. Okay, that's still our 4-hour strong lows, but on the 4-hour time frame, we haven't had that candle body closure, so therefore this is not a valid break of structure yet. This is just a liquidity sweep. Okay, this was a demand failure, so we can leave that there. Putting now supply, we can take the supply fractal range here. Let's just mark out our weak lows. Okay, M15 structural range. Discount, equilibrium, premium. So any supply zone, whether that's here, 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 in the premium of this range, will already be much higher probability than looking for supplies here or here in the discount. Okay, remember, you want to be selling supply in premium and you want to be buying demand in discount. So formulating a potential trade plan today, all of this for me becomes liquidity for these higher up areas of supply. We could potentially, for me, it would be a lower probability, maybe look for longs to ride a bit more of that M15 pullback. However, we've now had that internal break, strong low, and we've had that internal shift to the downside. So I would be happy to look for shorts of these areas of, well, we have a giant supply zone up here. Anything over here, I'm not really liking. Nothing really significant. Maybe the supply fractal range would be my first area of interest. So if we do get some more liquidity to form with that sweep and our 1-minute model to continue short in alignment with the internal and the M15 swing, understanding that we are due for a 4-hour pullback, so there is good possibility that price can target these strong lows and have that candle body closure. So it's in good alignment with the higher time frame intentions. And the M15 internal has now confirmed so that there is good probability to target these weak lows after this internal has now realigned bearish with the overall swing. Okay, so yes, these supply zones are in the premium of the range, but it's because the internal has now given confirmation to the end of this pullback. Okay. So I would like to stay M15 Pro Trend, just trading the 4-hour pullback and looking to target those 4-hour strong lows with some shorts. And if we do get that 1-minute confirm, I would execute that trade plan based on my rules. Okay, so are you happy with the breakdown of US30 and NASDAQ? And also take note of how when it comes to having a look at a market such as NAS and US30, I don't correlate them whatsoever at all. I know a lot of people have a look at the DXY and Euro USD, but what I will do is I will mark up the order flow and the structural story and context on each and every market separately and react to each of those markets separately with each and own individual trade plan on those markets. So this is a good example of where NASDAQ is showing bearish momentum, but US30 is still showing extreme bullish momentum, the complete opposite of each other. And that's where, again, if you mark up your structural types, it will start telling you the story on why price is doing what it's doing. Okay. Can we go back on gold and see what we can expect going into session today? Sure thing. Okay, so gold has now, as of yesterday or Monday morning, we created those record highs. We've had a weekly liquidity sweep, not a break of structure yet. So these still remain as the strong lows. The strong lows won't become updated yet until this candle closes above the weekly week high. Okay, so what we could potentially see is, because on the daily, we've had our daily break of structure. Here, we are due for a bit of a daily pullback. Same on the 4 hour. We've had our 4 hour break. We're due for a bit of a 4 hour pullback, which we confirm with the M15. So from the daily, we go to the 4 hour to the M15, which the M15 has now shifted bearish because to cater for that due pullback, which is now happening. Okay, so the M15 has shifted bearish. After the M15 break, we can expect a bit of a pullback, whether that's into supply here, here, or here, or here. We don't know where price is going to pull back to, but we'll use our internal of the M15 to confirm when price is ready to target these weak lows, catering for a much larger 4 hour pullback. Okay, so I've labeled over here the M15 internal strong low. If price takes out this internal strong low, most recent low, took out the previous week high, pullback, expectation is to respect the strong low and potentially continue targeting those weak highs. So therefore, if price takes out that strong low, this will become internal strong highs. Internal has realigned with the swing. Price could then potentially be ready to target those overall M15 week lows. Okay. So that would be my potential trade plan, is to continue phase C shorts, which is this area right now. We've had that 4 hour break. M15 has now shifted bearish. We want to see a bit of an M15 pullback to get involved with our 1 minute confirmation to continue short to the more extreme of the 4 hour demand level. So the higher time frame, longer term expectation of price is still for price to have a bit of a pullback, but then eventually to continue targeting those weak 4 hour swing week highs. Okay, so hopefully that just gives you a quick recap and some insight into why gold is doing what it's doing and putting the structural context and story together. Okay, happy with XAUSD at I think it's Al Watik. Are you happy with the Nasdaq and USDT breakdown? At Woody Ken, you're also happy with the XAUSD recap? Any questions on XAU? Any potential trade plan that you're having a look at? I'll be more than happy to go over what you guys are looking at. Remember, one thing I've always said to my members and in my content is that it's so important that you follow your own trade plan and that you learn to trust your trade plan. Just because my trade plan is what it is, it doesn't mean now you have to go and copy that. That's the correct trade plan. Every person and trader has a different background. We all trained to see price in our own perspective based on the knowledge that we've learned from various mentorships, various YouTube videos, or wherever you've gotten your knowledge from to trade. Every person is trained to see price differently. This is how I'm trained to see price. This is what works for me. It allows me to remain disciplined. It allows me to manage risk beautifully, and it allows me to execute based on my rules. Ultimately, which overall has allowed me to become a full-time prop firm trader. And that's ultimately what I try to instill in a lot of my members, whether that's you guys here on YouTube or in the private Discord, is that it's so important to take all of the knowledge that you've learned with whatever mentorship that you've joined, whether that's mine, whether that's there's plenty other gurus out there, taking that knowledge, backtesting it, collecting data, collecting the necessary results, which will ultimately, through those backtesting sessions, help you identify things that you want to tweak or incorporate to ultimately build your own edge and own system in the market. And that is, again, comes down to where trading is a very personal journey. How I trade may not be how you trade. It may, but neither of us is right or wrong in the way we trade. It's so important to trade something that you know works for you. And it's so important to remember that. So I can take you to the water. I can give you the right information, the context and algorithm of price. But it's important that you go and put that into action. Dedicate 3 to 6 months back testing, live testing, forward testing, and working out and refining your own edge in the market through what I've taught you. Okay, So really important to keep that in mind. If you are wanting to become a full-time trader, it's not something that's going to happen after a few weeks after watching a couple of YouTube videos. There's been people inside of MM Funded that have taken years to master these concepts, but today they're full-time successful traders because they put in the hours, they put in the work, they figured out what works for them and what doesn't work for them. A very good example is Hein. He trades very similar to me, but all he does is inside of higher time frame POI. So for example, let's take this higher time frame 4-hour demand in the discount of this range. He will only trade an M15 change of character inside of this higher time frame POI, and he will only take a 1 to 3 risk to reward. Just as that, stop below the low, 1 to 3. He won't target the weak highs. He won't target anything else. And that's his rule-based system that he has figured out over through backtesting and data collection that has worked for him. And that's ultimately a very good example of someone who's taken the knowledge from the mentorship and worked out a system that is working for him. Okay, so that's ultimately what I want you guys to take away from that is just because the way I'm trading works for me, it doesn't mean now you have to copy, paste exactly the same trade plan I've got. And that's a big reason I don't send signals, is because signals will never lead to true success in this industry. Because as soon as you miss 1 or 2 trades that I've sent, the entire discrepancy and gap in the data is going to be completely different between you and me. Okay. So the only way you can really reach success in this industry is to become independent at it yourself. Thank you for the gold breakdown. Nice breakdown. Thanks a lot. You're welcome, guys. And hopefully you're taking a lot more than just the breakdown of gold, but also understanding what I'm saying and how important it is to follow and trust your own trade plan. And also understanding the deeper meaning and reason behind price throughout these streams that I'll be hosting every single morning. Alrighty. But everybody happy with the pairs that we've broken down so far? As the only real 2 main pairs that I've been trading these days has been XAU, GU, EU, XAU, and then GU. I haven't traded for a while, but it's still a main pair that I have a look at. And those are just really the 3 top pairs that I look at, that I've mastered and that I keep in my trading arsenal. Could we please have a look at GU? Sure thing. Yep. Okay. So immediately, if I come back to the daily time frame, okay. Very similarly to EU, we've had our daily break of structure. Daily pullback phase started after the daily internal started shifting bullish, or the 4-hour swing, which is our daily internal, started shifting bullish. 4-hour break, pullback into demand to target those weak highs. Pullback into demand to target those weak highs. Following through fractally, we're now starting to mitigate older areas of supply. So the eventual anticipation will be for price to start confirming on the 4-hour to then follow through and target those overall weak lows. But who knows? Price could continue and target those strong highs. All that changes is this becomes a strong low. This becomes a break. We can expect that pullback, weak high. The eventual expectation will now be to target our new draw on liquidity, which is our new daily weak high. So again, the beautiful thing about price is we can mark out as many different scenarios as possible, but once you start learning to react to what price is printing, we will know which is the higher probability one to execute. And that is where, again, I posted I think it was on TikTok and Instagram yesterday, a great example of learning to react to price rather than trying to predict. And it's really not difficult to understand. It's a really simple concept to do, is react instead of predict. So my trade plan on GBP USD, very similarly to EU, would be for that 4-hour to start shifting bearish, for then a bit of a 4-hour pullback, to then look for my M15 pullback, to then look for my 1-minute confirm, to look for that swing trade to target those weak lows. Now, I'm not saying this is going to happen. The anticipation and expectation of order flow is for this to happen, but we'll react to price once that forms. If we get that 4-hour break, that pullback, and the M15 shifts bearish with our M15 supply, we'll then execute and trade based on that trade plan. Okay, so that will take us then down to the 4-hour time frame. We most recently have our 4-hour strong lows. Let me just extend this a bit here. 4-hour strong lows, previous break. 4-hour pullback hasn't started yet. We need to see the M15 switch bearish, which will then confirm we're in a bit of a deeper 4-hour pullback phase. The eventual expectation will then be to continue targeting those weak highs. Or price could take out that 4-hour strong low, new 4-hour strong highs, bit of a 4-hour pullback, new weak lows. The eventual expectation will then be for that M15 to then start realigning with the 4-hour and the daily, which will then be our opportunity to execute our overall swing trade to target the 4-hour weak lows and the overall daily weak lows. So that is what I would like to see on XAU. That is, for me, the highest probability setup that could play out going into the new year. If that plays out, we execute. If it doesn't, we'll reformulate a new trade plan. But going into session today from the 4-hour, we can potentially, one of two things, look to ride M15 Pro trend or just ride a bit more of the 4-hour pullback, as the expectation is for that M15 strong low to shift and break to the downside. Okay, but let's have a look at the M15. We're still busy internal breaks. We've now taken out that internal strong low, which means the internal has now shifted bearish, giving good confluence. Apologies, that's not a swing boss. That is a M15 IBOS. Making this now the internal strong high and this as the internal weak low. So this is a scenario where the internal lows are weak, but the swing lows are strong. And this can confuse a lot of traders. Now, the reason this would be is because we need to have that understanding of the higher time frame. The 4-hour is due for a bit of a pullback. We confirm the start of that pullback once the M15 swing shifts bearish. The internal, we confirm our M15. So the M15 now shifting bearish signals that there is good potential possibility that we can start a much larger 4-hour pullback and target that M15 strong low. Okay, so again, what I would like to then see, already understanding that structural story, is one of two things over here. We're busy mitigating now this area of supply, fractal range, which did have the necessary liquidity. Let's have a look at the 1 minute, what it did. So we actually did have that initial AMD, initial mitigation, reaction, sweep at that high. Then displacement fair value gap, which we mitigated a tiny little gap here, which is what the wicks fulfilled here, to then potentially continue short and follow through to target these weak lows. Okay, so this was 100% valid trade plan of the supply that's now in control to target the weak lows. Our 1 minute entry model played out beautifully. So if we do get on the M15, remember we only look at structure on the M15 is if we get that M15 fractal change of character, taking out that demand, supply and control, we can look for potentially a continuation entry to target these weak lows and ride more of a much larger 4-hour pullback. We also have beautiful triple bottom liquidity as our target resting over here. Okay, so hopefully that gives you a good enough breakdown of GU. Reason why I'm looking for shorts is because we are due for a much larger 4-hour pullback. The anticipation is now for the 4-hour to start realigning with the daily. So therefore, this would be once that M15 shifts bearish, phase C shorts. Shorts right now is phase D. And once that 4-hour shifts bearish, any shorts then over here on the pullback supplies will then be phase A shorts in alignment with the internal and in alignment with the overall swing. Okay, can we have a look at gold again? Sure thing. Okay, so XAUSD, we've just targeted the weekly weak highs after the 4-hour break of structures here and the daily breaks of structures. Weekly liquidity sweep, M15 has now shifted bearish, which confirms the start of a much larger 4-hour swing pullback. Okay, but after the M15 break, we can expect a bit of a M15 pullback into supplies here or here or here. Again, we don't know where price is going to pull back to. We use our internal M15 internal structure to confirm the swing. So we have had now the M15 break, internal shifted bullish, strong low, target to the weak highs, strong low, pullback. Expectation is to respect these strong lows to eventually target those weak highs. But keep in mind, the internal could shift at any time to signal the end of this pullback for then a bit of an internal pullback to continue targeting those weak lows. Okay, so my trade plan on XAU would be for this internal strong low to go to the downside, putting potentially the supply fractal range in control for a bit of a pullback. We need to see our liquidity sweep into this higher time frame POI, then for our 1 minute model to confirm us going short to target those weak lows. So that is what I would like to see on XAUSD, potentially going into New York session a bit later. Right now, price just moving very slow. I haven't even actually looked at the news yet today. Let's quickly have a look. All we have is JOLTS, job openings, and ISM services at 5 o'clock. That's GMT plus 2, 11:53 now. So still about 5 hours away before the news. So usually maybe we could see a little bit of less volume. And as the news kicks in, we could see that much more volatile movement following through structure. You'll find news follows structure and order flow 99% of the time. I have an epic quote that I usually say to my members is news is the excuse to move price in the direction that it's already going to go. So news could cater for a much larger pullback if we respect these strong lows to then eventually continue short to target those weak lows. If we do get the internal break to the downside, we could see a violent news sweep move up into supply to then continue further down to target those weak lows, catering for more of that 4 upper pullback. Okay, so we don't know what news is going to do, but what I like to do regarding news is let news play out, let all of the dumb money enter news, risking their accounts, risking the fact that there is tons of slippage and spread. Even if you predict the news move correctly, it can still stop you out because of aspects such as spread and slippage. So I always like to let news play out, let it tell you what the structure story is doing, and rather react from there post news. And that is my strategy in how I trade news. And it's so much higher probability than trying to predict news a few seconds before the release. Rather sit back, let news play out, but you will be the one that comes out untouched and unscathed, and your equity remains 100% safe. Okay. So that's my 2 cents on trading news the right way and approaching news events and high impact news events. Okay, still, mark out your structure, mark out your order flow. News will follow its rules. It's just the excuse to move price in the direction it's already going to go, maybe just a little bit faster with more volume. Okay, but Amos, are you happy with the breakdown on XAU? The recap? Again, if I quickly come back to the daily, why we targeted record highs this week is because we had our weekly pullback really back from the beginning of May 2023. Our daily shifted bullish after the mitigation into the weekly extreme demand at the strong lows, expectation to respect those strong lows. The daily then confirmed the end of the weekly pullback. Price is now ready to continue targeting those weak highs. Okay. So that's just the higher time frame context understanding of XAU. After the daily and the 4 hour break, we do for a bit of a pullback. These become weak highs to then eventually potentially continue targeting those weak highs. If price takes out the 4 hour swing and the daily swing strong low, we might potentially then see just a much larger pullback before continuing long. Okay. If price takes out the weekly strong low, then all that changes is this becomes weekly strong highs after a bit of a weekly pullback, weekly weak lows, and the expectation will be to target those weak lows. Okay. Thank you for this. I was so confused about SMC. The biggest mistake that SMC traders make, and this is something that took me years to understand, is a lot of traders look for the most obvious supply zones such as this here, okay, that created the break of structure with the inefficient push, the double top liquidity, but they don't take into consideration the structural context of what price is doing. Okay, yes, this is a beautiful supply, but price after this break of structure and these strong lows and these weak highs, the expectation is to target these weak highs. So once you learn to react to what price is doing now, it will give you that structure story, and you will slowly but surely start to understand that all the areas of supply will start just catering for pullbacks to eventually then continue pro trend to target your weak highs. Okay, so beautiful example here. Older supply, price mitigated the older areas of supply here, catering for a bit of a pullback, mitigation into demand that's in control to then continue targeting those weak highs, which over here, myself and all of my members were long on gold here to target these weak highs, where tons of SMC, I like to call them smart dumb money traders, are looking for shorts of these areas of supply, where we on the complete opposite side of the market, riding on the right side of the market to target these weak highs and these weak highs. So you always need to ask yourself, what is my structural story? Are the highs weak? Are the lows weak? And once your internal time frames start to align with that, you will find that you will be on the right side of the market so many more times than what you're not. Okay, so yeah, for anybody watching the stream this morning now, when moving into the, I don't even like to call it SMC, I just like to call it raw price action structural methodology. And it's so important to have that structural context before trading supply and demand. But those two added together is a real sweet spot in finding your click in this industry. Okay, but is everybody happy with XAU? We've really looked at all of the pairs that you guys wanted to have a look at: NASDAQ, US30, EU, GU, and XAU. I still need to hop onto stream later with the private community. We've got quite a bit of homework to do. So every single morning, I actually work with the guys pretty much one-on-one in each and every stream, going over the three structure types. We cover different pairs, new pairs. So look, for a lot of you guys that are in the stream this morning, if you want to take part in the homework in the private Discord is currently having a summer sale of 40% off. So I think the monthly fee now is basically the price of a Netflix subscription. And then you'll obviously have access to the full chronological core content of MM Funded there as well. I'll be more than happy to also break down on stream over here on screen of what's inside the Discord. So if you guys are happy to do that, we can actually break down what is inside, what you'll be getting, and what's really different compared to the public content here on YouTube. Okay, so what I would like to see on EU is simply because of the M15 time frame. This was just a very sharp pullback. We've now had that initial reaction of the supply. If we sweep that high and print our 1 minute confirm, I'll be happy to take that as my draw on liquidity with my 1 minute entry model to target the weak lows. Okay. However, if this pullback formed inducement to then sweep into the supply, I would have looking for my entry model right over here, but simply because criteria number 3 for the supply zone was invalid, so therefore this was not a valid institutional level. Yes, we had unmitigated, it's unmitigated, it had the break of structure, the change of character, internal break, it created the fair value gap, but there was no liquidity buildup for the supply. So therefore this initial reaction now becomes liquidity to sweep for a deeper liquidation for then our entry model to take our shorts. Okay, so that's the trade plan I'll be happy to look to follow through. We could even potentially see a sweep of this high and mitigation into the more extreme supply to then print our 1 minute model to look to go short. Just out of interest sake, does anybody know how to stream your PC screen onto Instagram? I would love to be able to get these streams on Instagram because a lot of my audience is on Instagram, and it will be great if we can have direct access to the streams there. But Streamlabs and all of the tools that you use to you could say, copy your streams, like the streams running on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, but there's no option for Instagram or TikTok, which would be really epic. But anyways, we'll eventually figure it out. I joined in August, basically new to SMC, not knowing anything, and slowly seeing profitable weeks thanks to risk management, proper strategy paired with psychology. Yeah, so at Boshi is one of our most fastest growing members at MM Funded. He joined about 2-3 months ago, and he's really clicked already. But one thing I can say is he's one of those members that have been in every single stream. He watches every single videos, and it's those members that apply themselves that I can see is putting in the effort, and those are the ones that are going to make it. So ultimately, again, it comes down to, I can give you guys the water, I can give you guys or take you to the river, but I can't make you drink. And that's where it's so important, the effort of taking the time out of your day to watch these streams, to take notes, to follow through and really learn as much as possible from this live stream mentorship to ultimately build your own edge on your end of the stick. So how much in rands is the subscription when there's no sale? So the mentorship is $59 a month. It's an international membership. There's a lot of members that are actually not from SA. But with a 40% special, it ends up being about 400 or 500 Rand a month. And the lifetime fee is about 4,500 Rand, which is $299, I think, with the coupon that's currently active. But again, if you're not ready to join that, make use of all of my content here on YouTube, the live streams. There's more than enough and a lot of information here already. Then obviously a lot of the chronological step-by-step mentorship that teaches you each and every break of structure, FEG, goes into the real detail of things. That core content is obviously inside for the private members, as I need to keep some of the private saucy for the members inside there. You can use this for Instagram and YouTube and all. Yeah, the thing is, on Streamlabs, there's no option to connect Instagram. And the thing is with TikTok, you need a TikTok stream code, which you have to apply for, which takes months to get. So TikTok, I can kind of get sorted, but the thing is, I really want to get it for Instagram, but I don't know where to connect this up to Instagram. I must just figure it out and do some more research. Sure, there must be a tool somewhere. But alrighty guys, then as price is moving along now, hopefully you guys have really just a much clearer understanding of price, what we can expect potentially for the rest of the week. We'll be back tomorrow morning updating on what prices follow through, and really just continuing as per usual, that consistency of formulating the trade plan, top-down analysis every single morning. And that's ultimately what I want for you guys, is to see that consistency every single day, and that ultimately then becomes muscle memory. You will start to click with new things each and every day, and that's how you slowly but surely put together your own rule-based system and find your own system that will work for you. If there's any specific topics that you guys would like me to cover, I'm more than happy to break down the streams in that format. So for example, one day, if you just specifically want to go over fair value gaps, or just specifically institutional levels, or just specifically the three structure types, or just specifically the Asian liquidity model, or our 1 minute entry liquidity model, we can kind of break that down, and I'll be happy to create visual mind graph examples, which is already in the private Discord as is, and then we can do some live examples here on stream as well. Apparently there's a thing called Instagram Live Producer. I'll have a look into that as well. I think you also need that stream code for Instagram, similarly to TikTok, but I'll find a way to get that right. I've seen other people do it before. I just don't know the tool that they use. But alrighty, guys, then I think we've had a more than enough value-packed stream this morning. Spam in the chats below if I'll see you in tomorrow morning's stream. I'll post the new link on my Instagram story a little bit later after the stream, so I'll reschedule that. And then we'll continue tomorrow morning with a trade plan, markup top down, full understanding, and then also let me know if you're not inside of the Discord. You can send me a message on Instagram if there's any specific points that you want to cover, and we'll go over through each and every individual aspect individually. Okay, but yeah, guys, with that being said, take care, and I'll see you guys in tomorrow morning's stream. Make sure to follow my Instagram. My Instagram is down below, and then I will post the new links to that new stream, and then you can enable the bell on. Then I think YouTube sends you a notification 30 minutes just before we hop on, but it's every single morning, 10:30 in the morning, GMT +2, and we'll be here daily to